Welcome to the Vision Hunters podcast. I'm your host, Cody Story, and this is episode number 5, the powerful personal and professional impact of style with Laurenmasia. Lauren is the most in-demand personal stylist in Los Angeles, having empowered over 5,000 clients internationally through her signature method of combining styling and personal development. She founded and created on-demand styling systems, Style Confidence Collective, and Personal Style University, and authored the books Style Therapy, which is out now, and you can purchase Style Therapy everywhere that you can purchase books. Also, she has authored the Book of Style and the Style Solution. Named Google's hashtag Woman to Watch on YouTube, Lauren has been featured in Marie Claire, Vogue, Elle, VH1, The New York Times, The Hollywood Reporter, The Wall Street Journal, WWD, Refinery 29, plus many other print and digital media outlets for her style expertise. Lauren is an experienced facilitator, motivational speaker, and social media sensation with a proven track record in over 400,000 followers. She has conducted workshops and trainings for Bloomingdale's, Westfield Mall, Nickelodeon, The Outnet, Luxury Garage Sale, Bumble Biz, and the Marketing Arms Influencer Continuum, to name a few. Lauren is hostess to several continuing education and online styling and personal development courses she created to help women unlock their true self through style. Before we dive in, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to the show, like it, or leave a review. New episodes of the podcast are released every Wednesday at 7 a.m. on Spotify, and you can watch the show on my Cody Story YouTube channel. The spelling there is Codystorey. Now let's get into episode number 5 with Laurenmasia.
Here we go, folks. Okay, so I'd like to begin by having you take us on a quick journey for some listener context. How did you get into fashion, entrepreneurship, and owning your own business? I know it's a big question, but I feel like as you take us on your journey, we can take some pit stops along the way and explore a variety of topics throughout your business evolution.
Yeah, of course. For me, from a very, very young age, earliest I can remember is 5 years old, I knew that I wanted to do something fashion related. I've always been very shy and nervous and introverted. So being able to express myself through fashion was kind of the only way I could do it. So I made clothes for my Barbies, I made clothes for myself, and it was just a way to express myself and be creative. So that kind of put the spark in me. And it was just an obsession from there. Like in high school, I made clothes for I started a fashion club. We had a fashion show at school, and I made the clothes for it. And I don't know, I just knew that I wanted to do something professionally with that. I went to fashion school in college. I went to fashion design school, which was a waste, kind of. At least I got to do something I loved. Yeah. But it didn't help me get a job or anything. But I just knew
you up for the future.
No, I just knew it was the path that I wanted to go on. So it just kind of snowballed from there, from taking any job that would pay me and infusing some bit of style into it, to leaving those hodgepodge jobs, becoming an intern at 28 years old. Intern to a stylist, your brother.
Yeah. School of Style days, baby.
Yeah, that was like even before School of Style was like really a thing. I mean, it existed, but I remember I took a School of Style class and I was like, wow, this is a really good idea and could be a really awesome business. And I also really wanted to be a stylist. So I hit Luke up the night after class and said, listen, I have experience in social media and blogging. I think that your School of Style has a lot of potential. I would be happy to intern and work for free, because really I wanted to go on the styling jobs.
Yeah.
And once I went on the styling jobs, I realized I don't really like them. So I actually enjoyed working on the business School of Style, and Luke and I worked together on that for over a decade, still working on it today to make it $1 million business. And I started my own business from there, styling real women because I couldn't stand styling celebrities. So now I have 2 companies. But yeah, it was just all from that seed of loving style as a form of self-expression to just going down a really windy path and figuring out where it might lead me. And I feel like I'm still on that path. Like my business keeps evolving and changing, and I just get to turn it into something that I like to do instead of fitting in some box.
Some cookie cutter mold. So you found out early on, once you started doing some stylist gigs, that it wasn't really the jam, and you like doing the personal stylist approach better. Why is that?
Yeah, I feel like, you know, speaking about cookie cutter things and boxes, there's this American dream for every industry. You know, like there's the big American dream: go to school, get good grades, get into college, get a job, make money, get married, have kids, have the house, die, it's over. You know?
Yeah.
So there's that. But then within every industry, there's a dream as well. So when you're watching television and you're seeing these celebrities dressed up on the red carpet, your mind automatically says, that's what I have to do. It's going to be super glamorous. I'm going to be like with the people, and I'm going to shop all day, and I'm going to be fabulous. And then once you get into the reality of that dream, it's not what was painted on TV. You know, I mean, I'm sure you know from having your own gym, you know, from being a trainer to like, oh man, I have a gym. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to be this like fitness person. And then you get in there, you're like, wait, this isn't my dream at all. Like, what was this? You learn a lot from it. So that was kind of it was like a rude awakening of like, I don't want to kiss these celebrities' asses all day.
Yeah. A good way to describe it is a rude awakening for sure.
Right? And just like running around the mall and being stressed out all the time and having them not be grateful because it was just part of their job, which, you know, they don't have to bow down to me and be like, oh my gosh, you made me feel beautiful.
Yeah.
But I guess I kind of wanted that on some level. So I love doing personal styling because it tied back to my feelings of being shy, introverted, a misfit who didn't belong, and could use style to open doors, to feel more comfortable, to start conversations. So to be able to do that for other women and tap into the power of style makes me feel alive. And if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you should feel alive by what you do.
Hell yeah.
Instead of like another day of work, you know?
Yeah. So what does fashion mean to you, and what does style mean to you?
So style to me is a door opener. It's a tool that you can use to really get whatever you want. So in the traditional sense, I don't care much for fashion. Like, I don't like the fashion industry. I think it's elitist. I think it's snobby. I think it can be really materialistic and gross. There's no inclusion. Style is what you make it. You know, there's real science behind what you wear and how you feel. There's real science between tribes and societies. And if you want to infiltrate those spaces, you have to embody the part. So because fashion has been so tainted with, oh my gosh, it's so materialistic, it's so gross, who cares? You should like me for me. You can move past that and be like, listen, you need to decide what game you're playing. And if you use this strategically, you can really make moves. I mean, I noticed this early in my career working with Luke on the school, and we would go into meetings and I was dressed like the young former party animal girl that I was. And we'd go into meetings and they wouldn't look at me. Or if they did, they would ask me to get them coffee or ask if I were taking notes. it never crossed their mind that I was an equal with Luke, that we were business partners. They thought
Okay.
I was his assistant. So to be able to, I had a moment where I looked in the mirror and said I could blame a variety of things. I could blame being a woman. I could blame being Black. I could blame looking young, so many things. And maybe a lot of those were true as well. But when I looked in the mirror, I said, what can I control? And it's how I present myself. So I gave myself a makeover, started dressing more professionally because I needed to command that respect. And to me, that's style. It's a lever that you can pull to advance. There's a reason that you're wearing the shirt that you're wearing right now.
Absolutely.
Versus wearing a tank top or like being shirtless.
I wanted to wear a tank top, honestly. And
right?
I'm just like, I know for where I want to go and the things I want to do, like, I don't want to dress for other people per se,
Right.
but I do know it has an impact, especially with first impressions. Like, you don't roll up in an interview wearing a tank top or just coming in shirtless or something. Like, you roll in there suited and booted, ready to roll.
Exactly.
So of course, like today, I was just like, you know what? This makes me feel good. It's not for Lauren per se. It's not for the viewers per se, but this is what I'm doing and I want to own it completely. Now, I didn't go out and, get some custom tailored suit. I've never even had a custom tailored suit, right? But I was just like, this is comfortable and appropriate for me.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like everything has like a degree of appropriateness, like there was something I posted it on Facebook and on Instagram where a news anchor from the Today Show, she was getting dragged in the media because her hair looked really bad on air. And, there's all the debates. I mean, God, if you look at a freaking Facebook post in the comments, you just lose all hope in humanity. But
yeah,
just,
it's pretty wild.
Nobody should care about hair. That's so unfair, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, it's not fair, but it's reality. It's reality. There's a degree of appropriateness for every situation that you're in until you're so in that it doesn't matter, right? Like when I started my career, I would wear blazers and I would wear heels and I would, have this presence that made me feel comfortable and that was appropriate. But now I've reached a certain level of success where I can show up on video and wear my Metallica t-shirt and be like, whatever, I own this sucker.
Yep.
I couldn't wear that same t-shirt if I'm going to shoot, a TV spot or something. So you always have to read how you're going to feel, how you're going to be perceived, and just, I don't know, like how important the container is at any given time. So I love teaching that to women, and I no longer dress women. I used to go to the mall and I'd shop for them and I'd dress them up like little dolls. But now I want to give them the tools to dress themselves. Like, listen, this is power that you have. And it seems frivolous, especially for women, but that's a special power we have. Like, men have their own set of powers. Women have their own set of powers, but they've been looked down upon, like using your sexuality or using your style or, adjusting the way that you walk. But why not own it?
Yeah. So you're aiming more towards even helping the women you work with more independence instead of needing to depend on you in the services. You've provided a new service, which is empowering them to be able to do it on their own.
Absolutely. And I combine personal development as well, because to me, there's no point in looking great on the outside if you are just a terrible human on the inside, or if you're a human that's so out of touch with yourself. I mean, you and I have known each other for years, and so many of the principles that I've learned, since our first meetings together, those help shape who I am. And it's reading, it's meditating, it's, digging deeper into who you are because that's going to help you better align with your goals. And when you know your goals, you know where you're going, you know how to dress for that life, and then you can start creating your own reality. So I've kind of mighty morphed personal development and personal style to make this super powerful tool for women to, be independent, be successful, really be whoever the heck they want with zero apologies.
And it sounds like you're bringing in a whole nother level of awareness with the clothes and within themselves.
Exactly.
Okay. So what does it mean to be an entrepreneur? Let's go a little businessy. We're going to kind of weave in and out of fashion, styling, and business and entrepreneurship all together. So as far as being an entrepreneur, what does that mean to you?
It means so many.
I heard it's really easy, by the way.
Yeah, it's a freaking walk in the park. Yeah, right. I feel like entrepreneurship has been so glamorized lately.
Oh, it's crazy.
And, so many people want to be an entrepreneur, and they want to make millions, and they want independence. They don't want a boss. They don't want rules. And some of those things are true, but again, once you go deeper inside, it's not that simple. Yeah. I feel like entrepreneurship tests you every day as a human being.
Hell yeah. Amen.
It's like you'll feel momentum, and you'll feel confidence, and you'll feel like you can change the world with whatever service or idea that you have. And then the next day you feel completely defeated, and you're like, why am I doing this? Will I eat tomorrow? Can I pay my staff? Like there's so much. There's just so much to it, but I also wouldn't do it any other way.
What got you to that decision? What brought you to that place to say, you know what, I'm willing to take these kinds of risks and pursue entrepreneurship? And stating what you just did, the ups and the downs, and like one moment you feel on top of the world, and the next moment you could feel like you have zero self-worth, let's say. What continues to drive you to pursue this?
I feel like when I had normal jobs, it just was very clear it was not a fit. They often say that entrepreneurs like just cannot be managed. So when I worked, normal jobs, I worked at a lot of startups, which had that entrepreneurial spirit in it, obviously, because the person who started it was an entrepreneur, and we were kind of working from the ground up. And it excited me to see that you could think of something and then do it. Because before working for startups, I worked in corporate America. I worked for AOL. And I was an executive assistant, so definitely not a glamorous job. But I just saw like this was in AOL's, not their heyday, but while they were still doing really well, their campus had 8 buildings, like 8 huge buildings, like 5-floor buildings, 8 of them. It was just incredible. And I'm like, all these freaking people. And I'm setting up meetings with like the top executives and nothing would get done. I'm like, oh my God, this is the worst. Wow. So then when you work for a startup and you see, wow, this person who started the company thought of something, has a company, and our little team of employees, we would actually make things happen. And that got really exciting to me. So then when I was able to make that leap, which was a very terrifying leap, to try it on my own, you kind of get addicted to that, and if you can, if you can sit back for a moment, entrepreneurs' minds work so fast. And I just shot a video about celebrating wins, because we often don't as humans.
Oh my God.
Especially entrepreneurs.
Especially entrepreneurs. I'm like the worst when it comes to beating myself up. It's crazy. Right? I was walking around my girlfriend's garden, and I was just thinking, I was like, dude, you beat the shit out of yourself all the time. And it's cool because I like doing quality things and offering quality services or products or whatever it may be. But, it's a double-edged sword.
Right? And even if you accomplish your goal, we're so like, okay, what's next?
Yeah. It's crazy.
But if you're able to sit down and just like look around of like, oh my gosh, this went from an idea to a something that all of these people have purchased, a something that bought my house, a something that bought my car, like all from this. And especially when I think of where I came from before this, it's a miracle. So if you can get in those moments of gratitude, you're like, that kicks butt. Like, how could I not be an entrepreneur when that is what's possible? So
what does celebrating these wins mean to you? How does that affect you, or why has that become important to you now?
Well, so I was in a mastermind call a couple months ago, and we were doing like a little mindset training, and the coach on that call was explaining how if you don't celebrate wins, like at least acknowledging it, you're actually training your brain to think that winning is lame. So if you set this giant goal, you accomplish it and you're like, whatever, I wanted to make this much money and I only made this much money. Like, I better set another goal. You're actually training your mind to be like, accomplishing things is not actually rewarding to you. So you can get in this negative loop of always falling short, of always missing the mark. So she's like, you have to train your brain to get addicted to winning. So literally, like, I had a little accountability partner in my group, and at the end of the day, we would type to each other in Slack 3 wins. And it didn't matter, they didn't have to be huge, like every single day. So if your goal is to get fit, we can obsess over the fact that we still haven't lost that 10 pounds, or you can celebrate the shit out of, I worked out today. I could have slept in. Like, that's amazing. I work, like, my body can move and I worked out. So that's the habit that I've been getting myself into, is at least acknowledging it. Like,
That's a pretty good step to take. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Because yesterday I just started my presidency for Entrepreneurs Organization, and that was a really big goal of mine. I had wrote it down, in my journal that like one day I wanted to be president, and like today is the day. I am now president. So, I just was like, good job, Lauren. And then last night I was, no, I had to celebrate this. So I ordered myself some sushi and like made myself some tea. Today I shot a video about it, and I just really wanted to appreciate that moment, because it's just so easy to get caught up. I got a book deal, and I just got the edit of the book today to look at it, to do the approval. And I could have just checked it off on my to-do list of like, okay, cool, gotta get the edits, gotta email the chick. But I'm like, I remember making vision boards for years and years and years that I want to be a published author. And that's actively happening. The book comes out next year in March. So like, just even noting that stuff is amazing,
Congratulations on the presidency and on the book.
Thank you.
Let's celebrate that, baby.
Right?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
It's very hard for me to even wrap my mind around that, but it's becoming very clear to me that that's the switch that I actually need to have take place in my own life right now. It's very important to me. Even reading, what is the book? BJ Fogg's Tiny Habits book. He's really big on celebrating the little mini or tiny successes that we have. And I've been experimenting with that lately, with little things in the state that I'm in. And then when I celebrate, the state that I'm in after that is completely different. And I find that it just makes me want to do more of what I just celebrated.
Right?
Yeah, it's amazing, because I really have neglected that and never thought it was a big deal. I would downplay it. It's just like, I've been so used to the rut that you're talking about. And my brain definitely has not been wired to celebrate my wins. Because I'm
Right.
always looking over the next hill and then the next mountain, and then, you know, how that goes.
There's a really good book that I'm reading now. I'm just going to pull it up on my Audible so I get it right. It's called Mindset by Carol S. Dweck. Oh my gosh. I'm just a couple hours into the book on Audible. So she hasn't got to the part where you're like, oh my God, can I change this? But she talks about having a fixed mindset versus having a growth mindset. And unfortunately, even as successful as I am, I'm like, I definitely see myself in that fixed mindset. And I want to change more into a growth mindset. And it talks, you know, about like studies with children of when, you know, they do really well on a test and they're like, you're so smart. You get so afraid to not be smart because you've taken on that identity that you don't want to try anything that's harder. But children that naturally have that growth mindset, they always want the next challenge. Like they love failure because it means there's room for improvement. And I'm like, okay, I need to figure out how to get this mindset. But I think celebrating those wins is at least a step in the right direction. But yeah, I would definitely recommend checking out that book.
And you said it's called Mindset?
Yeah, it's called Mindset.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
we'll definitely put that in the section below. Speaking of failures, you just mentioned that word. And before we get into some more successes, because it sounds like there's a lot of them taking place in your life and in your business right now, I wanted to dive into these 3 questions because sometimes learning from our mistakes is very powerful as well. What's been your biggest business failure that you've had to overcome to date?
There's too many. The one that's like top on my mind.
What's top shelf?
Yeah, we're top shelf because it's the most recent. I felt like, you know, running 2 businesses that are very similar to one another has been a sticking point for me. It's like, how do I balance them? I have a real more passion on one side than I do the other. So I knew that I needed to put more in, like all chips in, got to make this work. Let's do it. So last year I really doubled down on my less lucrative business and I hired this whole team. I hired multiple people. I spent so much money because I wanted to be a grown-up entrepreneur, and part of being an entrepreneur is taking risks.
Yeah.
And none of that shit panned out.
Wow.
I lost 50 grand.
Wow.
Like gone, no return on investment, back in debt after not being in debt. And it was just, it was tough. And I feel like it was a lesson for me, you know, again, of like not beating myself up and allowing that to be a lesson, because I didn't go to business school. I didn't go to entrepreneur school. I'm just figuring all this stuff out along the way. And I don't know, if I went to Harvard Business School and had all the mentors and all of the fancy friends that could invest in my company, it would have cost me God knows how much money. I don't know how much Harvard costs, but it's more than 50 grand.
It's a couple bucks, let's say.
Right? It's more than 50 grand. So I'm like, okay. So I spent 50 grand to go to Lauren's Business School of Life. And from that, I know to trust my gut, because all of those hires that I made, I felt that funny feeling of like, I don't trust these fools. Like, I don't trust them. But I let my head override my heart and was like, no, like, you have to be a big girl. You have to do ads. This guy has this fancy proposal. It's going to be fine. But not listening to myself. So after that, I don't want to ever make that mistake again. So I got better interview questions. I'm smarter at listening to my gut. You know, to dig myself out of that hole. But yeah, that one really sucked.
Well, I feel like us folks who didn't go to college for business, that are entrepreneurial and do pursue that path, that it's part of the game in a way. You know, this is our process of learning because we didn't go to the school to learn these so-called lessons. You know,
Yeah.
I just went through a very similar experience the past, let's say, year, transitioning out of, you know, being being in the fitness industry for 15 years, coaching for 15 years, owning my own brick and mortar gym for 8 years, and having to close the doors 2018. Yeah, June of 2018. So it's one hell of a lesson, but I just feel like without those lessons, I won't be able to go to the next phase.
Yeah.
Like maybe there's anomalies. There are people who pursue entrepreneurship and starting their own businesses and everything just, you know, is all peachy creamy and everything works out. That's just not my story. So when you're saying that, I identify on a very deep level. And I also want to say thank you for being honest, because I believe as I look deeper into the business and entrepreneur world that there's a lot of BS out there that's being told, and a lot of fake guru BS is, you know, being casted upon a lot of prey. To me, what I see, there's a lot of predator and prey going on, which is nature. It is what it is. But a part of this show is to start weeding through that bullshit and getting to the reality, especially for folks like us that come from nothing, that have put it all on the line and taken every risk possible and sacrificed so much and just been givers and focused on serving others. And, you know, banking on even myths like build it and they will come. Kevin Costner, Field of Dreams. Okay, well, there's a big difference. Like on my last interview today, I was talking about there's a big difference from starting a business, running a business, and scaling a business. And to me, it was just, you know, through charisma and passion and obsession, it was actually pretty easy to start the business, right?
Yeah.
But what about running the business, especially when it's, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years in, your case, 10, 11, 12 years in, then what? And to me, there's these different layers and levels, and without the proper education or coaching, what else could happen other than failure? But I think the failure is the win, to come back to the whole idea of winning.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's you know, it's changing your mindset around that, you know, because it's tough, because you do hear so many of those BS stories, and actually it's not even that they're BS, they're just highly curated stories where no one tells you the ugly stuff. Yeah. So you feel like a dummy, like, what am I missing? Like, what is happening here? And then if you're able to just hear, you know, one story behind the curtain, you're like, oh, that was all crap. Like, why? Like, I'm over here beating myself up and I'm all freaking out. And you're like, wow, that wasn't even reality. So yeah, the failures are good lessons. We just have to remember that everybody's failing. Everyone's full of shit, which is why I really infuse a lot of transparency into the work that I do. Like, when I have a membership site called Style Confidence Collective. So that's where I have all these women paying monthly, and we work on our personal development. We work on our style. We're just trying to grow into just better humans. I tell stories and I talk about fucking up, and I talk about like not doing it perfectly. And maybe that doesn't come off well to some, but I don't want to paint that fake picture. It's just gross to me. And I've had plenty of coaches that are like, no, you've got to paint, you know, this journey, and you have to be up here and you have to brag about this because that's how they respect you. I'm like, that shit just doesn't sit well with me. So if my business has to grow a little bit slower because of that, then that's cool. But I found that the more transparent I am about my failures, about bad days, about good days, people trust me more,
Yeah.
and it makes me more human. Like, I was so terrified to speak about certain things that I just believe in, or certain experiences that I've had living on this earth. And the moment that I was like, you know what, who cares? Like, anyone who doesn't like me can just leave.
Yep.
The people who do like me, they love me,
Yep.
and they feel that connection. So I think it's great to educate yourself. I think it's great to use coaches, but you have to keep that filter in place that says, all right, thanks for the information. No, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do this part my way.
Mm-hmm. Authenticity and transparency is key. I'm getting a nice ass whooping in that department. I just don't like the feeling of even trying or attempting to live out a lie or to live out hyping myself up. Like it doesn't do it for me.
Right?
Like I'd rather bear all. I'd rather tell all the ugly truths and put that out on the line and be willing to lose completely, because I enjoy the depth or the level of relationships that are built on honesty.
Yep.
Does that make sense? Like what you're talking about, I can hear there's a real depth of relatability and connection taking place.
Yeah. I mean, the people that spend money with me, like, I want to like them enough to like kick it with them.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
I have some customers and I'm like, if I had a gigantic party, you would be invited.
Mm-hmm.
I was just so sick of tiptoeing around the community that I created, about what I spend every second of my life. Like, even when you're not working as an entrepreneur, you're thinking about your business, you're waking up in the middle of the night with an idea. I don't want to hide myself because I might offend, XYZ person. Oh, they might find out that I think this, and they'll be scared and they'll leave and they won't spend money with me. Like, be gone.
Yep.
Go.
Peace out. God
Right?
bless.
Yeah. Go
Mm-hmm.
spend money with someone else that you better align with.
Mm-hmm. Can you speak to some of the fears that you've had to contend with?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, being the face of your brand, there's that fear of, like, where does Lauren the business start and end? Where does Lauren the human start and end? Because my brand has so much transparency and authenticity, it kind of all comes out, but you need to be able to keep some things to yourself too.
Mm-hmm.
So part of what I've done as a strategy is making it so I have certain pillars that I'm going to share, and certain departments that are just for me, because I feel like some things do need to be for you, so there is fear about maybe exposing too much because I don't want to hurt other people in the process, so that's a fear. Obviously the fear of just everything like not working out. I think that's the biggest fear of every entrepreneur, especially, in these times today, of like, what would happen if everything was lost? That's the scariest.
Well, it can happen in an instant.
Yeah.
Which is the reality of entrepreneurship.
Yep.
What has been so I know you're talking about what you just went through as being a lesson. Do you feel like this is the biggest lesson that you've learned so far, or is there anything else as far as lessons are concerned that you feel like you've learned that could also be beneficial to anybody listening right now?
I feel like I've got, I'm sure, plenty more lessons to come. I've learned the lessons about money. I've learned the lessons about trusting the wrong people. I've learned the lessons about not trusting myself, but more will be revealed. Like the bigger risk you take, the bigger steps that you take, and I've realized within myself, like, I do a lot of journaling. I do a lot of like introspective work. I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, and there are certain things that I could be doing to accelerate my business, increase my revenue, that I've just been scared to do. because I don't like, maybe I'm not ready for that lesson. Maybe I'm not even ready for the positive side of that lesson. So I've just been kind of meditating on that line of thinking of really stepping into my entrepreneur shoes of like, do some shit that scares you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even that it has to be that hard. Like we decide that it will be, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's my mantra right now. Do scary shit. I'm using whatever I'm afraid of or fear as my guide. Like what scares me that I don't want to do, but I want to do. Does that make sense? Like I want to do that thing. And if this fear wasn't here, I would just be doing it already, including making a podcast that can totally bomb, or making a podcast and I might find out in a couple of weeks of doing it, I totally don't like it. Like, I don't know, but I'm more willing to find out and walk through the fear and uncomfortability of, you know, talking to people that I know, talking to people that I don't know about certain topics that might go well, might not, you know, but that fear is becoming actually my motivator in a way.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
So I like
it's a
when
good perspective shift. That's important.
not easy.
No, not easy. Not easy.
By any means, but it just feels like I have to.
Yeah.
I just don't feel like there's another option. Like I don't want the alternative of not doing that thing that seems to be scary to me. And in reality, once I start doing those things, I find that I'm not really that afraid of it. It's just a lot of my own personal stuff that I need to work on. And by doing it, I get to actually grow internally.
Yeah, I was talking to my coach the other day and I was like, gosh, sometimes I feel like I just keep repeating patterns, you know, like I'll break it and I'll have the success and then I'll come right back into the same mindset or the same situation, but different. And he's like, you have to decide that it's over, no more, you're fucking done. And I was like, God, you're right. And I know that I've applied that principle into so many different areas of my life. Anything in entrepreneurship, we've already done it in life. You know, we already accomplished the impossible. We already said like enough is enough, whether it's, you know, drinking alcohol or being in a relationship that's not working for you anymore. Like you have put the freaking line, drew the line in the sand. He's like, you have to make those types of decisions when it comes to running your business all the time. You know, like I was talking to another entrepreneur and she was like, did you apply for any of the loans that are going on right now with COVID? And I'm like, no, you know, I don't know if I really need it. And she's like, it's free money. Go get it. And like really inside of me, there's all sorts of layers of fear there. I don't know enough about finance. I'm not good at filling out forms. It takes too long. What if I borrow the money and I can't pay it back? You know, so like that's the old thinking that we have to get past. So today you know what, Lauren? You're going to read up on all the loan stuff. You're going to apply. You're going to try it. You're going to try it. You're going to decide that it's not hard to do that stuff because it's not. We've created businesses that make a ton of money. Like filling out a friggin' form is hard.
It's wild.
Right? And what if I got the money and it helped me accelerate my business? Because we are in a time of crisis with COVID. It is money for small businesses. Yeah. Especially for females of color. Like, what am I doing? You know, so it's making that decision. If I make my business work better, I can reach more people. I can help more people. I've seen the impact that my business has on my customers. It's crazy the success that they have. It's crazy. I'm like, oh my, I helped her do that.
Yeah.
Wow. Just from changing her mindset and the way that she dresses, her marriage is better. She got a promotion. She's making more money. Like, if it's my responsibility to double down, to do the things that scare me, to say, I'm doing this, like every day I'm doing this. I'm not going to half-ass this shit. And if half-ass is all that I can do, then I'm taking the day off, honestly, to recharge so I can come in 100%.
So you keep mentioning and referring to coaching and mentorship. Could you share a little bit about the role that mentorship has played in this pursuit?
It's mentorship and coaching has been a game changer for me. I remember, so I had joined, I'm an entrepreneurs organization, and before qualifying to be in that organization, I was in their accelerator program. So those are for businesses making 250K, but under $1 million, because the goal is to accelerate you to the $1 million mark. And I remember being in my little accountability group with my coach, and you work through business issues and, you talk about your personal and your professional life. And my coach in that group said, your confidence sucks. And I was like, what? Like, it sucks. He's like, I'm going to introduce you to this woman. I think you should talk to her. And I remember I had one call with her, and I was just in tears on the call because it was just became so apparent to me how much I was afraid, like how much I was afraid of success, how much I was afraid of failure. And I took a risk and I plunked down some money and I worked with her. And I feel like that's the biggest misconception of the entrepreneur, is that we have to do all of this alone and that we have to be this sole genius that figures all this stuff out and makes all the money. And we did it. But in the reality, like, it takes a village. You need all of these people helping you. Reading that mindset book that I was talking about earlier, she was saying that when you think about the invention of the light bulb, that what do you think of? One person in there toiling away at this light bulb and making it light up. But that wasn't the reality. The reality was like all of these different minds working together in teams, and it took a lot to have that moment. It wasn't just a dark basement with
That's so funny. That's all I've thought about. Is
Exactly.
Just one dude tooling around with like some wires and glass and something.
Right? Yeah.
There was no team. There was no laboratory of people working on this task.
Right?
Yeah.
Crazy. And that's what we think as entrepreneurs, that we just have to be in a little vacuum by ourselves, doing every role, thinking of everything, spending all the hours, but you need help. So even to get to the point of hiring help and making enough money to do that, someone's got to help you learn those lessons along the way. So from that moment, from that first coach, I've worked with multiple coaches since then, and I continue to have, like-minded individuals and mastermind groups and hire individual coaches, because they will illuminate the path for you.
Guidance is another lesson and key in getting help from others. You don't have to do it all by yourself.
Nor should you. It's arrogant to think that you can. And I've had that arrogant line of thinking of like, no one can do it as well as me. No one can, no one works as hard as me. No, like, you're literally dumb if you try to do everything yourself. Like in the beginning, sometimes you have to, because you're broke, you don't have everything moving. But the second you can afford anything, even if it's a virtual assistant that's, $10 an hour or $3 an hour in the Philippines or something, get the help. There's someone that can do that skill a lot better than you. So you can just do the one thing that you're really good at. And
that you probably enjoy doing.
Right? I know I finally have an amazing team that does really good work. And honestly, they do it better than me. It's like, it was hard to let go of the reins. And I was still holding on to stress of like, oh my God, this is so hard. And then in reality, I look at my notebook, I'm like, wait, I don't have to do any of this stuff. Why am I worrying about it? I'm paying them to do it. And they're doing it better than I'm doing. What am I doing? Because you get addicted to that feeling. But coaches and mentors help break that. They reality check you and be like, dude, what are you doing? I'm like, oh crap. We know this stuff, but you get lost and you forget.
Yeah, delegation. It seems to be a skill in itself. Can you share with us the different ways in which you've had to expand and grow as a person in order for your business to grow?
Oh boy. I mean, just as I said, like letting go, like that's been the biggest thing, like relinquishing control.
Mm.
That's been the best way to grow. And honestly, just continuing to work on your mind and on yourself. I remember years ago, I would always look at Luke with his long morning routine. You had a crazy long morning routine, and I'm
Still
like,
do.
me too. Mine's like 3 hours, and I would be like, I get up like, I can't believe Luke takes 3 hours to like get ready for the day, because I would just hop up and like get to it. But now over the years, oh my gosh, you cannot take that away from me at all. And I feel especially with like COVID and shutdowns and everyone's schedules just being like tweaked, that I kind of lost my footing a little bit on my routine. Not to say that I didn't keep a routine, I did, but didn't have the same flow to it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
everything went upside down, so there might be a shift in flow.
Right. But it's so important. And if you don't remain vigilant with your meditation and your reading and your spiritual connection and manifestation, you don't have anything. Because if your mind is crazy, you cannot function, and you can't lead a team. I mean, there's been times where I have team meetings and I'm like watching myself. I'm like, what are you doing, Lauren? Like, you're just like making everyone frantic and crazy. So yeah, you got to keep your mind sharp, and you have to just keep your mind open and allow others to help you succeed. Because if you find the coaches, the staff that believes in you, they want to lift you up and see you succeed, and you have to let them do that. Because they want, I mean, it's crazy. If you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm really leading these people. They're really behind my mission. Why am I not letting them help me? I'm not only stunting my growth, but I'm stunting their growth. If I don't make this work, I can't pay them.
Straight up.
I have a responsibility. They're like my kids,
Yeah, talk about responsibility. Take on payroll.
Right?
So I noticed that I want to get into your online business as well. But before we do, I noticed you have almost 90,000 subscribers on YouTube. How did you create such a successful channel and build a tribe like that?
Yeah, I just checked my YouTube channel today. I'm almost at 10 million video views. I'm like, holy crap, right?
Yeah.
So I got really good advice from a friend who's also an entrepreneur. And by the way, he doesn't even remember giving me this advice. I'm like, John, thank you so much. He's like, I said that. I'm like, yeah, you did. You did. But he gave me really good advice years ago. He said, just do a video every day. He's like, just do a video every day. He's like, don't produce it all fancy. Just shoot it on your iPhone. Just put out content. And I was like, why? Like, why every day? He said, because you don't know which one's going to hit, like which one's going to go viral, which one's going to make your channel explode. And the more often you're putting out videos, the better chance that you're going to have for that to happen. It's going to help you build your audience. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. So you have, I had like a batch of like 10 video ideas. And I'm like, okay, great. That took me through 10 days. What next? So I started saying in my videos, if you have a fashion question, put it in the comments below and I'll shoot a video on it. And that ended up working out really well for me, because that meant the question they had wasn't something that was coming up with an answer on Google. Because if you have a question, what are you going to do? You're going to freaking Google it.
Yep.
They couldn't find an answer. So by me providing them an answer on video, guess who now shows up on Google with that answer? Me.
That's
and my
tight.
YouTube channel.
That's
so
tight.
That's how the growth really began. And then after a while, I put it down to 3 videos a week. Then I put it down to 2. Then I put it down to 1 because I had grown the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And I made sure in all of my videos to have a link for them to be able to join my email list. So, I'd have like a little free something, like a free wardrobe checklist, a free ebook. So they would get on my email, because then if they're on your email, you can build a relationship with them and then eventually sell things once you have, products and services to offer.
Mm-hmm. Can you repeat that question again? I think that's something that's simple and very practical for anybody who's interested in building a YouTube channel. Could you just state that again, as far as the question that you were asking your subscribers and viewers?
I just said, if you have a fashion question, drop it in the comments below and maybe I'll answer it on video. So, enter your industry here, like with you, when you were doing fitness videos, like, cool. If you have a, fitness question, you have a diet question, put it in the comments below. Just get your audience to curate your content. Plain and simple, So I started really wide, obviously, with like anyone who stumbled upon me to ask a question to curate my content, just to like get the trust in YouTube, build up the channel. But then there comes a point where you switch more into the content for the audience you want, So it was helpful for getting the numbers, for building trust. But at some point you're like, I don't want the client who's like, how do I wear a t-shirt? Like eventually you want something deeper, but you can take your audience on that journey. So someone who came in and they're like, I have no idea what to wear to a job interview. They like me, they start following me, and then all of a sudden my content starts morphing into how to be so powerful that you crush a job interview. So, you draw them in.
Okay.
The problem's never the problem, like, oh my God, I need to lose 10 pounds. Like, that's not really the problem. The problem is like your husband's ignoring you, or the problem is you have a high school reunion and you don't want everyone to know that you got fat and didn't make anything of yourself after high school. Like, the problem's never the problem, but get them in, because that's the only part they can see, So you keep it simple to build the audience, then you can go deeper from there.
So how did you get into shaping the topics or what you want to speak to, and shaping the kind of audience that you wanted to work with?
For me, I found like my favorite clients throughout the years, whether they came from online or in person, or just people that I just really enjoyed being around. And I researched the heck out of them. So I'd have like, my little muse, of like, I remember one of my clients that I've worked with, she's a friend of mine, her, Shannon. In the beginning, Shannon was like my muse. And it was a person who was clueless about style, who was very smart, but wasn't getting the respect she deserved at work. And her life was here and it wanted to go here. So I always thought about her when I was creating content. Like, what help would she need? What types of opportunities would she be presented with? What types of shopping challenges might she have? What types of body type challenges would she have? And I just thought about everything to help her. And I'd create content around that because I wanted more people like her to be in my orbit. So the biggest mistake that people make is they go too broad. They want to help everybody, but you can't help everybody.
Not at all.
So once you pinpoint that person and you can get inside of their head so well, then other people like them just start flocking out of the woodwork. There's so many people on this planet.
So you become like a magnet, an attractor for what you actually want to do and who you want to do it with.
Yeah, because it's too hard. I mean, I've made the mistake too, where I've been, going back to that fear question and that kind of scarcity thinking. You want all the clients, you want all the money. So you take someone on that you're like, well, they're not really like Shannon, but I'll take their money.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to appease them while you're trying to make your regular client base happy, and you're spread all over the place and you don't make anybody happy.
Working with energy vampires.
Oh yeah. I remember I had a launch for my course, and a couple of those vampires snuck in. And I could tell they were a pain in the butt from the customer service emails, just the questions they were asking. I should have just been like, this program is not for you. But I'm like, okay, how can I answer this? So they'll like, like me, and then they'll sign up. And this one woman was such a nightmare that I literally was like, I will refund your money. Please go. Like, get out. You're ruining it for everybody else.
Wow. Yeah. A bad seed.
Oh, such a bad seed. But it was my fault because I
said yes and could have said no.
Right. Yeah. When she was asking alarming, like crazy questions in customer service, I should have been like, yeah,
red flag.
I'm not entertaining this crazy, but I'm like, $1,000. That's all I can see.
Sometimes that can be a sticky situation, especially when you got bills to pay and, payroll, like we mentioned, and all of that. Can you tell me a little bit about, or a lot about Laurenmasia.com? Like what products or services you offer on Laurenmasia.com?
Yep. So I used to do in-person services for my clients. And so Laurenmasia.com was all about like booking a service so I could shop for you. And because my YouTube channel exploded so much, I would have inquiries of like, how can I work with you? I live in Germany. How can I work with you? I live, in Tennessee. So all of my services are online. So I have my core offering is Personal Style University. And that is a self-guided course. It's video content, worksheets, community that essentially takes a woman through the process that I would take her through in person. So instead of me doing a client consultation on you, you get to ask yourself the deep questions. I call them style self-discovery. You get to figure yourself out. I teach you how to figure out what your vibe is, how to put together, a Pinterest board, how to shop, how to tell how clothes can fit, how to put the outfits together, how to have like a full inner and outer transformation. So I have that. I have Style Confidence Collective, which is my monthly membership. And this is where we mostly work on the internal transformation. So every week I put out new content. We have a book club. We have monthly growth challenges. We have Zoom styling parties. We have experts come in. We've had experts on from hypnotherapy to fitness to seduction.
Dang.
So yeah, it's super fun. I have like the coolest women in there. And of course, we're also working on our style as well. But it's all about community and just really tapping into your full potential. And then I'm going to be launching later this month in July, a program called Beyond Style. So this I'm really excited about because I've taken everything I've learned over the past 12 years from like, you met me 12 years ago.
Yes, I did.
I was a mess. So everything I've learned from that moment to today to build me into the woman that I am, from, meditation, visualization, the golden key, watching your mind, but then also watching your style, setting goals strategically. So over 6 weeks, they'll be, the women will be group coached by me. I'm going to take a small group of women through
rad.
A total boot camp. Like it's like a get your shit together.
This is the deep dive.
It's a total deep dive. So I'll be launching that. I mapped out the whole program probably like 8 or 9 months ago, maybe. And I've taken myself, obviously I've been taking myself through it for 12 freaking years.
Yeah.
Like all the different iterations of myself. but I really mapped it out into a formula and took myself through those 6 weeks and is like, wow, you can really change yourself a lot in 6 weeks if you devote yourself to it. Like major miracles can happen. So that will be launching very soon. I'm excited.
Love it. As far as helping people with their style, I know it's a lot deeper than their clothes. Can you describe some of these ways in which you're helping them on these other layers? I'd love to dive into that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically figuring out like who the heck you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the thing with style and why people find it so daunting. They don't know who they are. And if you don't take the time to dive into your own identity, then you end up wasting time and wasting money trying to be someone else. And I'm sure we've all had that experience. I have. I'm sure you have. People
just look at past photos.
Right? And it's especially sticky with social media. You will scroll through your feed, you will see an influencer and she's dressed up in the cutest clothes and she's got the fanciest purse. And in your mind, subconsciously, you think, if I dress just like her, I'll have her life. I'll have her money. I'll have her vacation home. I'll have her hot husband. But it's not true. So you spend all your money trying to be her, and then you're disappointed when you're the same old you once you put those clothes on. So what I'm helping them do is figure out who they are authentically so we can transcend trends, labels. Like, wear labels if you want to. They can be very powerful too, or don't. But when you know who you are, it doesn't matter where you got your clothes from, how old they are. It's all about you. So that's what we're really trying to do, is figure out who you are, because then you can dress yourself accordingly and like live a completely authentic life.
What seems to be the biggest roadblock or challenge that your clients come to you asking for your help most of the time?
A lot of it is body related. Again, it's like, it's never the issue. So I'll have clients that say, nothing ever fits me. I don't have enough money to be stylish. It's all of these, you know, external things. And then once I get my hands on them, I'm like, dude, you can be stylish no matter how much you weigh, how tall you are, what size you are, how big your butt is, how big your boobs are. It doesn't matter. They have to get into that place of self-love and acceptance. And that's what they're lacking. They don't like themselves. They don't think that they're enough. They think something's missing. And if only I can dress them up and make them perfect, then everything will be okay. And what I'm teaching them is like, no, you're okay right now. You got to get okay with that and shed all of the bullshit that people put on you. The comment that your mother said about your hair, you know, the thing that the kid in school said that you know, looked fat when you wore corduroy overalls, you know, like all those things pile up on top of us, and we got to let it go, because then you can be free.
Right on. So what types of transformations do you see with your members? Because I know we're talking about the challenges, the beliefs and fears and acceptance and these principles that you're working with your members. What are the type of transformations? I mean, you even talked earlier, like people get upgrades in pay, or they land a new job, or they meet, you know, their significant other. Could you elaborate on some of these benefits and results of working with you in your programs?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's the before and after pictures where you're like, whoa, your outfit's better. But so many of my clients lose weight unexpectedly. I don't teach fitness. I don't teach diet. And they lose like a ton of weight because they like themselves. They like themselves exactly as they are. And once you really like yourself, you start treating yourself better. If you don't like a person, you treat them like shit. If you like them or love them, you'll do anything for them. You'll treat them like gold. So they lose weight, they gain confidence, so they're making more money. One of my clients, she tripled her income. They've won awards. They've been on television. they've left bad marriages, they've purchased homes. Like, it transcends style because you've gotten the bullshit out of the way, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like any transformation. When you change, you're like, whoa, I can't believe I did all that. You know? So yeah, I've seen everything. I've seen, relationships improve. I've seen weight loss. I've seen money, and I've just seen like happiness and acceptance. I love being inside of the group, especially inside of Style Confidence Collective, because they're just okay with themselves. And I think that is the greatest win of all, of being like, you know what? I don't need to spend like all this money on clothes. I don't need to have that fancy job. I like my life just as it is. They made friendships. That was a big dream of mine, because a lot of my clients are introverted and they're just like kind of loners and misfits like me.
Easy to isolate.
Totally. And they've made like meaningful friendships inside of the group. I have 2 women, didn't know each other from Boo. They both live in LA. They're best friends now.
Awesome.
They go out to eat together. They go shopping together. They talk on the phone. They Zoom together. I'm like, oh my, they're best friends. Like, a product I created helped create that. That's so cool.
I know you have also created a challenge. You made reference to doing challenges. And I know right now you have one called Get in the Room. How does that work? And what can it do for folks who sign up?
Yes. So usually this time of year, I launch something called the Love Your Body Style Challenge. I do it every summer to help women, feel more confident about their bodies as we enter into summer. However, this year, 2020 is just a trip. 2020 is just a different, it's a different type of year.
Yes,
and, between COVID and racial justice, it's just, I can't talk about freaking getting bikini ready. Like, I just, I can't do it. So I was thinking about, my own experience and entering into the presidency into for Entrepreneurs organization, and just having this moment of like, how did I get here? Entrepreneurs organization, for the most part, is a white male organization. White males dominate the wealth in America. It's just a reality. It's not a shade on white males. It's just how this country was set up. So when I stepped back and was like, oh my gosh, I'm a Black woman who is a successful entrepreneur, who is now the president of this organization. How the frick did I get here? And how powerful is that I am here? Because now I can make changes. I can make opportunities for other women, people of color, other minority groups to get in. Because once you're in, you can do things differently. Just as you're having a podcast and you're like, it's such bullshit, like all these bullshit fake success stories. You've made a platform for yourself to be in and talk about, the truth. So I'm like, God, that is so powerful to be in the room, and what a gift that we can have. But how did I get in here? It wasn't just being smart. It wasn't just working hard. It was all of those different levers of dressing the part, of speaking to the right people, of knowing when to shut up and knowing when to speak up. There is a formula to getting into a position of power and influence. And I want to teach women how to do that too, because I think it's just vital right now. So during this 5-day challenge, which is completely free, women are going to come in. I'm going to guide them through this journey of identifying the room, figuring out who's in there, who do they need to be to get in there while being authentic, and getting back in touch with what their mission is. Getting rid of that fake ass American dream that we talked about. And figuring out what is your real dream and what impact is that dream going to have on other people. So we can get some real real motivation behind success, not the BS of, oh, I want to make this money, I want to have this purse, I want to have a boat. Like, no.
Your dream, not
Yeah.
just the American dream.
Right. Like, that's cool. You can get the prizes and stuff too.
Absolutely.
But if you can get back in touch with your why, it makes the push to get in there so much more meaningful, and it makes you able to take your lumps, you know?
Oh yeah. There's going to be some.
Right? I mean, we all wish that we could just walk into a meeting dressed however we want, talking however we want, saying F you to the asshole who's like looking at your boobs instead of your face. We wish that stuff didn't exist, but it does. So there is a game to success. There is a game to life. It wasn't built for all people. So the people that the game wasn't designed for, I'm going to show you how to play it so you can get ahead. So that's what the challenge is about. I'm excited. I think it's going to be pretty powerful for a lot of women.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like a great opportunity. It's for free. It's 5 days. They get to work with you and really start the journey, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually liked the idea of challenges. I know there are a lot of people that have done them and been doing them for a little while, even in the fitness community when I was in there. But I feel like, speaking of rooms, it's a great way to open the door to learning about yourself and going places you've never been and doing things you've never done and becoming who you've never become yet. So let's take a moment to look inside of a crystal ball. What does the future hold for you and your business, and also those you serve?
So for me and my crystal ball, I do a lot of visualization. My book that's coming out next year becomes a New York Times bestseller. Wow. I already know the name of my second book, so that is going to get
boom.
That's going to get a book deal. I've always wanted to have my own TV show where I'm doing these internal and external makeovers, like instead of a traditional makeover show, like a total makeover show. Yeah. So that show gets picked up on either Netflix or Hulu. I win a daytime Emmy for the show.
Hell yeah.
So those are just a couple of things in my crystal ball. The Get in the Room challenge turns into a movement, and it turns into a conference, and I'm on stage and I'm helping all of these women get into the room, and their successes become my success. It becomes less about me and more about them when I can say, oh my gosh, I remember when she went through my challenge and she was just a shy little girl and now she's running a Fortune 500 company. Like, that's the type of magic I want to see, that I've helped play a part in someone else's story. So that's what's in my crystal ball.
I'm going to ask a couple more questions here and then we'll wrap it up. But I know this is actually something that even pertains to myself. Like, I don't consider myself a full out introvert, and I don't consider myself necessarily a full out extrovert. I know how to do the extrovert stuff, but I've noticed when you've shared about, certain things pertaining to being an introvert, I identify in the capacity of doing things like this or going out to events, being around a lot of people. It's draining for me. However, when I'm in the moment and we're rocking and rolling and we're doing the deal, like, I love it. And it gives me energy in that moment. And there's a lot of conviction and joy that comes out of it, but it definitely zaps my energy. So what have you done to manage being an introvert that's also a part of the mainstream, or that has to get out there in the so-called limelight and do the things that can be sometimes draining to an introvert?
I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what introversion is. And that's what I really try to teach my clients, because most of them are introverts. And the misconception is that we're shy, we're quiet, we're afraid. Like, growing up, I was very shy. I think there's a lot of other shit that was, that contributed to me not being comfortable around human beings, like that's past introversion. But the real common thread is like what gives you energy and what does not. And shockingly, most introverts are very good at public speaking. They're very good at like playing the role and like being on stage, because there's not really that connection. Like, I can be on camera, I'm talking to many, so it may as well be nobody. But put me in a party with a person that I don't know, that's going to give me anxiety. Once I get in the group, like, we're okay, but it's a lot. So it's really like what gives you energy and what depletes you. Like, after this, I'm loving this. I'm fired up. I'll probably be tired as shit. I'll need to lie down. So I think like understanding the difference. There's a really great book called Quiet, and it's about introverts, because the world is really set up for extroverts. So it's important for introverts to understand how to navigate an extrovert's world for success. But there are so many gifts that introverts have that we need to be aware of, so we can really use those to our advantage, you know?
Yeah, that's dope. That's super big. Like, I've had to really manage my energy in order to do certain things. I find if I do recover or I do charge my batteries, it's really profound what can take place if I take care of myself, because I know myself. Like, I've had to get okay with, like, I love naps. You know what I mean? So I take the time to do that. Like, people might just be like, you know what? I meditate in the morning for 20 minutes. I meditate at night for 20 minutes. Like, I legit lay down and just get quiet. And sometimes I do it once a day. Sometimes I don't do it at all. Sometimes I'll do it 2 or 3 times, but I've kind of had to just accept who I am and how I function. I find the energy is there. And, you know, sometimes I don't have the ability to do that, and I can push through. I can dig deep and do the thing. But I've really noticed when I do that, I'm better. I'm able to give more. And it's very easy, I think, sometimes to, speaking of beating ourselves up, to beat ourselves up if we're not acting like other extreme extroverts. Right. Especially when you watch TV or things on social media where everything is so extreme. It's kind of like, oh, I'm a weirdo, or, oh, I don't have the ability to do that because I'm not like that person. When it's like, no, actually, I can do that. But there's just a strategy for how I need to go about doing something like that.
That's why knowing yourself is so important. And I love like personality tests, like Myers-Briggs, Strength Finders. A friend of mine who's like an intuition coach, she has a quiz on your intuition type. And I find the more that I know about myself, the better cadence I can create for myself in life, and especially in entrepreneurship, of knowing if I'm going to shoot a video, I should do that earlier in the day, because I'm going to have done like all my morning meditation and routine. I'm going to feel the freshest and most confident and like get that shit done, you know? Because by the end of the day, after Zoom meetings and phone calls and text, my energy has gone down, down, down. So you can keep plugged into that. And the more that you're around other entrepreneurs and people on social media, you can easily get poisoned by their style if you're unaware of your own. Like, I love Gary Vee, but I had to mute.
That's who I was thinking of.
Yeah, I had to mute those posts for a bit, because he's all like, who cares about holidays and family? Like, hustle, you could do that shit later. And you think that you have to keep up with that pace to succeed. But you don't. Like, everybody has a different style. There's people that are crushing it that work like 2 hours a day, you know? So once
and like don't even leave the house and don't even participate on social media.
Right. Who have like the ugliest websites in the world. They have no followers and they're making like millions of dollars.
They're killing it. Yeah.
There's all different ways to do it, but you have to understand yourself, or else you're like, oh, I'm not doing it right. What a loser. I should be working longer. I should be posting more. It's like, no, you're okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Easy to get wrapped up into that. So really quick, as far as advice or recommendations, suggestions, I want to look at 2 categories. One is for people in the style category, and the other is in the entrepreneurship category, what would be any suggestions or recommendations that you would have in regards to those?
I mean, almost in both, you kind of have to tap into the pain if you want to make a change.
Pain's a hell of a motivator.
It really is, because I feel like in life, no matter what the category is, we're so used to living in this dull discomfort, and you've got to accelerate the pain if you want to change it, or else you'll just be like, Like, I'll give an example that doesn't have to do with either, but I think illustrates the point. Once COVID hit and the gym's closed, and I'm used to working with a personal trainer and just having my routine, it went off the rails. And I was like, you know what? We're just gonna be on lockdown for a couple weeks. Cut to, it's been like almost 4 months. You know what? I'm just going to enjoy sleeping in. I'm going to enjoy baking. I'm going to enjoy like watching movies. And I stopped moving, and then I'd be like, you know what? It's fine. I walk the dog, multiple times a day. I don't eat gluten. Like, I'll be fine. I don't eat very much meat. And I noticed I was getting like a little bit softer. And every day,
just creeping in.
Yeah, every day it's like, well, my clothes still fit, but like I'd rather wear sweatpants, like the dull discomfort of like, I know I could do better. I know I should exercise and like really double down, but like, it's fine until that one day hits and you're like, what the heck? Like, unacceptable. This is terrible. I have got to shed whatever weight I've gained, muscle mass that I've lost now. And then it's on. I ordered the mirror. I've been working out every day for 3 weeks now. I'm on a 3-week winning streak.
Right on. Eating
right. Like, I'm back on point, because I got to that pain point that I was like, ew, what is this? I used to have muscles. Now I'm like, ew. So if we can fabricate that moment, which I've done many times before. I had this exercise and I went to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within. He calls it the Dickens process, which I also feature that process in my book in terms of style, but taking it to that dark place. If every day I wake up and look in the mirror and are like, I hate my clothes. I guess I'll just put on this t-shirt again. I guess I'll just put on these jeans or leggings again. You're just in this dull pain. But if you can take it down the road of like, if I put on leggings every day, I'm never going to know what my size is. And then all of a sudden I'm going to be fat in leggings and unable to wear jeans. Or I'll lose my confidence so much that I don't leave the house, that I start taking phone meetings instead of Zoom or in-person meetings. I don't want anyone to see me. And then my husband's not going to think that I'm sexy anymore. And then he's going to find a younger, hotter chick, and he's going to leave me. Like, you can take shit down the dark place. In entrepreneurship, you can do the same thing. You can be like, okay, I'm making enough to survive. I'm things are okay, but I know I'm made for more. You can take it to the dark place. If I don't get my shit together with work and tap into my full potential and go, when I'm working, work. When I'm not working, rest. I can run out of money. I could not pay my employees. I could be so full of shame that I don't want to even get a regular job to pay the bills. I could end up homeless. Like, you can take it into that fabricated place of pain to snap you out of it and into action.
Yes, you can.
So that's
pain,
the best advice I can give.
The pain drives me to do more things than, say, like a bag of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Right.
Or a pot of gold, whatever you call it. Money isn't a big motivator for me. It's like, I want to have nice things, do nice things, and have freedom and all of that. But pain drives me way more than money or the big reward. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's crazy. That's just something that's like deeply ingrained inside of me that's got me to do so many things throughout my entire life. I mean, hitting bottom
Right?
Crashing and burning at 23, the pain was so great that I changed my whole life.
Yep.
And I started actually asking for help. And my mind opened up and I actually started accepting where I was at. And then things really started to change and transform. But the pain was the catalyst.
Exactly. I mean, same thing. Like, I should have been taking care of myself long before 28 years old when I hit a bottom and was like, wow, my whole world just came crashing down. I better get this shit together. It doesn't have to take that amount of pain.
No,
doesn't. It doesn't have to. You know? And like, I'm sure there's some normal people out in the world that are just like, I'm going to do this and be successful. I'm not wired that way. Like, I need the moment of like, I'm not positive I'm going to be comfortable in these jeans all day. Maybe I should exercise. So to take it to that painful place where like, it's do or die. Like, it really is. Like, this business, I'm more than my business, of course. But I know that the things that I teach, the message that I share, I know that it was God-given. Like, everyone was born with their little unique skill set, with their unique path, with their unique mission on this planet. And I have to fulfill that. Like, I have to. Or else I'll be put on for another try. And I want to get it right this time, you know? So I have to take it to that painful place to be like, Lauren, you're doing this. Look how much you've done so far. Like, you are doing this. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Hell yeah. I would say 2 takeaways for me in this conversation today is what we're talking about now, you know, how the pain can be the catalyst. And then also for people like us to celebrate those wins, like we started this conversation off, you know, because it's like, yeah, that pain is a motivator, but I also don't want to just stay in the pain all day. And then pain doesn't have to be the motivator or the teacher all the time, but it is one hell of a miraculous motivator, right? So today it's like using the pain and then also not forgetting to celebrate along the way.
Right. Yeah. You just have to remember for the pain to be like the kick in the butt. You know, like with sobriety, I have not needed to revisit that pain.
Nope.
Like, that was enough. And from there, it's been like, okay, we're good. I keep doing the work to make sure that it remains good, but I didn't need to go back and revisit the pain that alcohol brought me.
No.
So we don't need to keep being on that hamster wheel. That's when you have to put, you know, the sword in the stone, draw the line in the sand, and be like, no, this is enough. Still being able to draw from different types of pain or different levels of pain. Absolutely.
And basically, it's like morphing the pain into something positive.
Yep. Absolutely. Getting in touch with your feelings. Like, what is pain? You know, what is acceptable? What isn't acceptable?
I think a lot of it comes down to that.
Yeah. The more you know about yourself, the more you'll win. You know? Yeah.
So where can my listeners find you? I know we talked about Laurenmasia.com. Where else? I know YouTube. What's your YouTube channel and Instagram?
Yep. Everything's Laurenmasia. So Instagram, Laurenmasia, YouTube, Laurenmasia, website, Laurenmasia. So that's where you can find me.
So folks, y'all know how to find her and get in touch with her. This is the end of the show. I want to say thank you for joining us today and sharing your story. And I also want to say thank you for helping me at various times in my business journey as well. You are an amazing human being and a real inspiration to me and many others.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
That's it, folks. That's all I have for you today. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to like, subscribe, and leave a review. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Cody Story, and this is the Vision Hunters Podcast.